It is now 7:01 and we will begin. Please take your seats. Good evening. I'm Eva Valentine and I want to welcome you to this evening's forum. I'm president of the League of Women Voters for the state of Massachusetts, and I'm here to welcome you to this. I hope you have submitted questions so that our candidates can respond directly to your questions. And if you haven't submitted a question that you'd like to, at the entrance, there are little 3x5 cards that you can fill out your question, and that then we will be able to administer it to the candidates. I'd like to take this moment to thank the Greater Haverhill League of Women Voters for organizing this, and specifically Gail Sullivan, who was instrumental in doing this. And I'd also like to just make one backtrack. Housekeeping. We all love our cell phones. Please shut all sounds off. Also, if you happen to have a badge or some kind of button supporting any of the candidates, I would ask you to remove that in case the camera pans towards you. This is a nonpartisan forum. Okay, let me introduce Becky Bachman, who is our moderator. And because we are nonpartisan, we also have very strict rules as to who can moderate our events. Becky Bachman is from the League of Women Voters from Andover, North Andover. She lives in Andover. If she lived in North Andover, she could not be our moderator because we do not allow moderators who have skin in the game. In other words, they cannot be of any of the communities that these candidates are representing. And that is to make sure that we retain the nonpartisan and no interest, no personal interest, so that it's fair and equitable for all of the candidates. So, at this moment, I'd like to bring Becky Bachman up, and she will take it from here. Thank you so much for attending. I really am very delighted to see all of you here.
Welcome to this Meet Your Candidates Night. I understand that Haverhill will now be represented by only 2 incumbents who are each running unopposed. So tonight is a chance for you to get to know the other candidates who want to represent you in the State House and the State Senate. And just a quick reminder, if you are not yet registered to vote or you know someone who isn't, you have until this Wednesday, October 17th, to register. The League has determined that tonight's forum will not be conducted strictly as a debate. Instead, all the candidates will be answering the same question, and there will be no time allotted for rebuttal. If you have not already submitted a question and wish to do so, there are cards available. There are cards available at the entrance, and there is still time, but given that we have 9 people answering questions, we are not going to be getting to all of them. I just want to warn you of that in advance. The format tonight will be that each candidate has up to 2 minutes for an opening statement. Each candidate will have 1 minute to answer each question, and then each candidate will have 1 minute for a closing statement. As I said, there'll be no rebuttal time, but if a candidate chooses to comment on something that has been said previously, that response will then be charged against his or her 1 minute answer time. Okay, and I'm also going to try to alter who is the first to answer each question within each contest, so that the same candidate will not always go first. Candidates, please note that there's a timer sitting in the front row. You'll see a card stating that you have 30 seconds left, and then 15 seconds left, And we do have a stop card, and I guarantee you that I will very nicely ask you to stop, and I will cut you off. So please honor the time, because there's so many of you. We really do have a lot that we're trying to cover, and it's a difficult forum. In addition to which, the microphone, as you see, you don't have a microphone in front of you. This is being recorded, so a microphone is going to have to be passed. So we will try to make this as efficient as possible, but your timing is also going to be kept real strict. Yeah. The candidates are seated as follows. Our 4 candidates who are running for Senate are seated at the left, and that is Kathleen O'Connor Ives, James Kelcourse, thank you for getting here, Paul Magliacetti, and Sean Toohey. The next 2 candidates are running for representative from the 2nd Essex District, and that's Barry Fogel and Leonard Mura. Then we have 2 candidates running for representative from the 14th Essex District. That's Diane DeZoglio and Corrine Roten. And our final participant is the representative from the 15th Essex District, Linda Dean Campbell, who is running unopposed. The candidates are seated alphabetically within each contest. Please note that if there had been any contest in which only one candidate had been able to attend, then the league would not have permitted only one of 2 or more candidates to participate in answering questions. Instead, the league would have given the candidate the opportunity to read a 2-minute statement. Linda Dean Campbell is running unopposed and chose to be here tonight, and the league welcomes her willingness to answer questions. Bruce Dempsey, the other incumbent representative, who is also unopposed, was invited to participate tonight, but he had a prior commitment. We all appreciate the candidates' willingness to run and to be here tonight. This is your chance to get to hear their positions and opinions and to get to know them. While I more than suspect, I know, there are some very ardent supporters of particular candidates in the room, please hold all applause until the end. The library will not let us stay beyond closing, and we really want to get to as many questions as possible. So thank you, audience, in advance for cooperating. And again, unless you have an emergency need, please make sure your cell phone is off. So we'll get started. Opening statements, and we'll begin with you, Kathleen.
Thank you very much. It's excellent audio. I'm Kathleen O'Connor Ives, and I'd like to share with you why I'm running for this state Senate race. My background is one that I'm proud of. My mother was a school teacher, my father is a carpenter, and my brother is recently retired from the U.S. Air Force as a lieutenant colonel. My sister's a proud mom. But today, even though parents worked hard then to provide for a better life for their children, it's getting harder and harder for everyone to do that. Whether you're a recent retiree or you're a hopeful student or a young couple, it's harder for everyone. And that inspired me to run for state Senate. I understand from my own life experience the difficulty in starting your own business, the financial strain of attaining higher education, and what it means to live within a budget. I'm eager to work on specific strategies to boost our economy here in the Merrimack Valley. I'm focused on how our cities and towns on the New Hampshire border can gain a competitive edge. I have the temperament, experience, and dedication to public service necessary to make progress on these issues. I've pledged to be a full-time state senator, available to listen and address your concerns. Over many months, I've campaigned throughout Haverhill and the district and understand that people are being squeezed from all ends. People want government to work better and want to see their tax dollars result in improved services and infrastructure. I want to reduce wasteful spending and promote government transparency. We had a strong leader in Bador for 10 years. I'd be able to hit the ground running and could do more for Haverhill than any other candidate. Whoever's the next state senator in our district will be making decisions that impact everyone's lives for the long term. And with that, I look forward to this forum because I believe voters deserve specifics on the issues that matter to the district. Thank you.
No, please please no applause, it just takes away time. So thanks very much.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is James Calcourse, and I'm an independent candidate for state senator from Amesbury. I agree with Ms. Ives, and that it is very difficult today to compete, to get started in business, and I should know so from being a self-employed businessman myself. My parents both were poor. My dad came from very little. My mother left Scotland, Glasgow, Scotland, in poverty to come over here and seek a better life in the United States, and she did. And she was able to provide for my mother, for my brother and myself, and my parents raised us to be strong young men who grew up and were able to compete in this wonderful Essex County in this Merrimack Valley and raise, a family of my own and buy a house and do wonderful things. I attained a lot of education, and I did so by hard work. I had the love and the support of my parents, and I really had nothing more. I attained a full athletic scholarship to Villanova University, and I made the best of it instead of squandering it. I got an MBA there as well, and then went to law school nights. I worked full-time while doing so. And the first thing I did is I got out and started my own business, hung my own shingle, and gave it a shot. And 4 years later, I'm still doing it, and I'm proud to say I'm pretty successful over in Newburyport. With your help and your support, on Tuesday, November 6th, I'll be your next state senator. And all the good values that I learned from my mom and dad and from really good family members and strong family members, I think I'll be the best to lead this district and to be a great representative of this district for the next couple of years to come, and hopefully several years to come afterwards. So I look forward to your vote. Any questions that you may have of me afterwards, please visit me at jamescalcourse.com. Call me anytime on my cell phone, 978-388-4144. I promise to be accessible when being your next state senator. Thank you very much.
Good evening. I'm Paul Magliocchetti, your independent candidate for state senate. As an independent, I'm free to focus on issues rather than party ideology. I live in Haverhill with my wife, Julie, and my 3 children, Massimo, Isabella, and Luca. I'm the only candidate in this race that has owned and operated a small manufacturing business, and currently I'm a partner in one of the oldest and most respected firms in the area. Also, I'm the only candidate in this race that's put out a complete, comprehensive economic development plan. As your senator, I will consolidate and streamline our economic development agencies into one to give small businesses the advice and capital that they need. I will fight to revise the tax code to make us competitive with all of our bordering states in areas such as business taxes, tax credits, and individual income tax. I will try to bring back retail to our border communities with a graduated sales tax, such as 2% on border towns, 4% on border towns to the border towns, and 5% everywhere else. I will fight to bring back our downtowns. I will try to create tax-free zones in our downtowns to help improve our creative economies. I will propose education reform that focuses on classroom learning and requiring cooperation among our high schools, vocational schools, and community colleges to give our workforce the training and education that they need to compete in the future. I will fight for real welfare reform. I will fight to mandate reporting at employment offices every day, for mandatory drug testing, and for EBT reform that allows cards to be used for food and clothing and not for ATM use. I'll propose health insurance reform that makes sure that it's affordable for employers and employees by tort reform and opening markets. I am Paul Magliocchetti, your independent candidate for state senate, and as you can see, I am ready to serve you. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone, for being here. I want to tell you a little bit about myself here tonight. I was born in Methuen, Massachusetts, the youngest of 5 children. I actually grew up in the Tower Hill section of Lawrence. My mother, who's here tonight, raised my family as a single parent in a time that wasn't very popular back then. I owe a great deal to her, who set the example by teaching her children that anything is possible. She worked extremely hard to keep our family together, and that is something I shall never forget. Today, I live in Haverhill with my wonderful wife, Tatum, who is self-employed and works extremely hard. and without her, I would not be here today as well. We have two wonderful children, Delaney and Jack, who attend the Haverhill Public School Systems. In my background as a business owner, as well as being a mortgage banker and being on the Haverhill School Committee, serving for the last 9 years as president and vice president, as well as serving on the Whittier Votech School Committee, will allow me to have the necessary characteristics to go to Beacon Hill and fight for a stronger economic climate, help to create jobs, reduce sales and income tax to a level that is needed and conducive for businesses to succeed in the Commonwealth. I look forward to a spirited forum this evening, and mostly, I want to be accessible as I've been throughout this campaign as I go forward and transparent. Thank you very much.
Good evening. Thank you all for coming tonight. I want to thank the other candidates who are here tonight as well, and I want to thank the League of Women Voters of Greater Haverhill for arranging this event. My name is Barry Fogel. I'm the Democratic candidate for state representative for the 2nd Essex District. The towns in the district are actually listed on the materials, but here in Haverhill that includes Ward 7, Precinct 3 in Bradford, and Ward 4, Precinct 3 in Riverside. Let me give you two main reasons why I will make a difference for the 2nd Essex District. First, for more than 30 years as a lawyer working in the field of land use and environmental law, I've been on the front lines of economic and business growth. The vast majority of my work is helping large and small businesses solve regulatory problems so they can keep and add jobs here in Massachusetts. My clients build manufacturing facilities. They restore vacant buildings and contaminated land. They develop housing and commercial real estate, and they build new roads and bridges. I want voters to know this about me because it is one of the key qualifications I have to help our local economy emerge from this great recession. Second, I am not a Beacon Hill insider. This is my first run for public office. I am an independent thinker, and I will stand up for what is right on Beacon Hill. I agree with voters who want more transparency in government, and I can work to make that happen. I have experience fighting for openness and access in government, for example, under the open meeting law and the public records law. I know we need to rebuild the public's confidence in state government, and I will make that a top priority. I will honor and respect the trust that voters deserve if I am fortunate enough to win this race. I look forward to answering your questions about these and other topics tonight and in the days ahead. I would ask for and appreciate your vote. Thank you very much.
Good evening. Thank you all for coming out tonight. My name is Lenny Mira. I'm also running for state rep in the 2nd Essex District. I'm a lifelong resident of Massachusetts. I currently live in West Newbury with my two sons, Anthony and Nicholas. I've worked in the private sector my entire life, mostly at Mira Company. It's our family-owned construction company in Georgetown, Massachusetts. I also started another business with my sons called T&M, where we install outdoor publicity displays like giant balloons, banners, and flags. The companies are doing well. We've been very busy, but I'm running for office because I just believe we need a lot of change on Beacon Hill. I'm running as an outsider. I'm running as a reform candidate. Now, I know many of you have heard that before. We've heard it many times before. But I want you to know that I'm putting my money where my mouth is. I do not accept any money, any donations from any special interest groups. By not taking this money, I will never, ever be beholden to any group. I'll be working for the residents of the 2nd Essex District. When I make a vote, when I make a decision, it'll be based upon what I think is best for the long-term interests of our district and our Commonwealth. Now, what I bring to the table is over 25 years of working in the private sector as a construction worker, as a manager, as a landlord, as an entrepreneur. This has given me a lot of experience in growing businesses and creating jobs. It has also given me a perspective on how taxes and regulations can truly stifle job growth. Right now, Beacon Hill is full of people who have been in government for far too long. Lawyers and government bureaucrats who don't have the experience and don't have the background to start new companies, grow existing ones, or create new jobs. I believe we need some true outsiders on Beacon Hill to provide a fresh way of doing things and to make Massachusetts a better place to live and a better place to do business. I hope asking for your vote in November to help me get this done. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. I want to thank Gail and Carol and also Becky for moderating tonight. This is an excellent forum for all the folks of Haverhill to be able to hear from their prospective representatives and prospective state senators so that you can make an informed decision when you go to the polls on November 6th. I got into this race because I am a mom of 3 young boys who go to public school in North Andover. And as a mom, I am doing this for my family and for all the families that are in the district. I've seen some things that happen as a school committee member. I've had to take some pretty tough votes on what to fund and what not to fund, and I think it is important that we live within our means. That is something that I see on Beacon Hill as a problem, where we're spending where we can't afford to spend, and we're not cutting wasteful programs that need to be cut to look at things that are being abused, the fraud that is happening on the EBT system for the cashless, the EBT cards for cash to get out of the ATM is one of the things that Beacon Hill has taken a look at and tried to reform and worked towards. I think that there are still things that need to be done with that. There was a jobs package that was passed that left some things on the table, and as a state representative, I've promise that I will go back to those things that were left on the table and look at them and bring the ones forward again that need to be brought so that we can build the economy. I've met so many people who have lost their job and have been out of work for several years, and they need a livelihood. That is why I'm in this race. I look forward to meeting all of you door to door, and I look forward to hearing your concerns. Thank you.
Thank you very much. My name is Linda Dean Campbell. I am currently the representative for 15th Essex, which now includes part of Haverhill as well as part of Methuen. And I thought this was an opportunity to meet some of the residents and citizens of the city of Haverhill, and I want to thank the League of Women Voters from the Merrimack Valley participating here. And they are also to be congratulated. They have come close to setting a record, or have set a record for voter registration, so I want to thank all of you. Obviously, this is a very, very important election. I am currently serving as the Vice Chair of Veterans Affairs in the House of Representatives, and it's a true privilege to serve in that capacity. I have been in, this is my 3rd term, and right now, I would think I would be described as a conservative Democrat. My priorities have been to assist border communities across the Merrimack Valley in being able to compete with southern New Hampshire. I think if you were to look at my record, what would stand out is the legislation that I have submitted in the reform capacity from both housing, reform legislation addressing the mortgage crisis, and reform legislation addressing pensions. So I will continue in that venue, because when there is an opportunity for reform in government, which there is right now in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, you have to take that opportunity and you have to run with that opportunity. And I continue and will continue to do that on a regular basis. I have been very, very, I think, outspoken in supporting policies, again, that support economic development in the Merrimack Valley. And I want to thank the residents of Haverhill that have allowed me to reach out to them as I campaign in Haverhill, and I'm looking forward to meeting more of you as I campaign through November. Thank you very much.
Okay, we'll get started on the questioning. Now, Corrine, you heard what I said in the opening, that if there's more than one candidate running for an office and only one candidate shows up, we've given you your opening, but I'm afraid you can't participate now in questions. Diane DeZoglio had said she would be here. When she arrives, then you can participate in the questions. But until that time, I'm sorry, that's just the policy of the league, because yeah, and you will be able to do a wrap-up. I'm very sorry. We can't anticipate if someone doesn't show up, but that's why I explained what happens when you are opposed if your opponent doesn't show. So let's go ahead with the beginning questioning. And I know this is difficult, but what is the single most important issue facing voters in Massachusetts? And how would you make a difference in solving that problem? Please be specific. And we'll start at this end.
Thank you. I believe strongly that the single most important issue that we're all facing here in the Commonwealth is a dire need for tax reform. And I really consider that to be an umbrella issue where if it's not adequately resolved, all of the issues that fall under it, such as adequately funding public education or catching up to speed when it comes to infrastructure, or being able to live with dignity as a senior on a fixed income. If we don't decide what our long-term strategy is for raising revenue, we're going to not solve all of the underlying problems. And I really don't believe that just kind of nibbling at the edge with a tax holiday here and a slight reduction here is going to solve the issue. I think we need to clear the slate and consider all options on the table, because if we don't solve it at a state level, we're just going to feel it at every city and town when it comes to raising our local property taxes. And that, again, impacts the local aid situation. So unless we figure out how we can have a tax system that benefits business and residents, thank you.
I have to agree 100% with my Democratic opponent, and I've been saying that since March 26th. I've actually been saying that before my candidacy. In fact, we need real tax reform. We also need jobs in this economy in order to stimulate growth. And I can say that from experience. I've been trumpeting all along the importance of tax reform. I think by implementing further taxes on, corporations such as, those in the film industry, for instance, like my Democratic opponent has talked about before, it's drastically going to hurt this economy. We depend on those types of jobs to come here into the Commonwealth. The creation of 684 new jobs, those are 684 new families that have money coming in as a result of an industry that was never here before. So I think we need to protect that, we need to nurture that, and we need to continue to watch that grow. And as a result, we're going to have more money for local aid, which is going to affect, in turn, property taxes and lower that for those desperately needed households that, are experiencing increases in taxes like I am on their home. Thank you.
The most important issue facing the 1st Essex District in the country is the economy. We need a comprehensive plan, and that's why I came up with one. What my Democratic opponent is proposing is an oversimplistic approach. That's only one piece of the puzzle. She talks about tax reform, infrastructure, raising revenue. All this means she's looking to you, the people in the 1st Essex District, to contribute more. I don't think that's the answer initially. Reform before revenue. We need to look at consolidation in government. We need tax reform as a piece. We need education reform, we need welfare reform, and we need health insurance reform. Help our small business community, bring back manufacturing, get everyone working. That's how you grow the economy. That's how you're going to get more revenues, because you're going to have more people paying income taxes. The businesses are going to pay more in taxes, and that in turn will allow the state to give more towards local aid, and that will keep the property taxes in check. That is the most pressing issue we face, and you need a comprehensive plan. You can't do it piecemeal. Thank you.
Thank you. I also believe that the economy is the high priority. I believe, as I said on the onset, about reducing the sales tax, being a border community to New Hampshire, we all know this, as well as the income tax to provide a better environment for business to do business. Lowering healthcare costs for individuals as well as business. Unemployment costs we need to address, and I will do that in the legislature. We talk about bringing back manufacturing. The only way we're going to do that, I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but Massachusetts has the highest electricity rates in the top 3 in the country. So we need to do a better job providing a better climate to do so. I will also go back to Beacon Hill and reduce wasteful spending and go back to zero-based budgeting, which puts every expenditure on the table. So we start and every item is on the table, and we start and get back to basics. Thank you.
I might get in trouble if I don't say it's the economy, but I will say this. We all agree with that. The most important thing that faces us is rebuilding confidence in government. We see what's happening at the national level. We see what's happening even in our Senate race. We have got to create a fair dialogue between people. We all share common values. We want this economy to do well. We want it to bring up everyone in the 2nd Essex District. But we need to do it with a reasonable dialogue on Beacon Hill. We need to make sure that your representatives are honest and have integrity and have transparency. You'll know who I meet with, whether it's a group, an interest group, or an individual. My record will be on the record, so you'll know where I am. But I do want to talk very quickly about one thing, unemployment insurance. It went up for Massachusetts employers when we have a recession. It's time for that to come back down. We need to take that burden off of small businesses in our district so they can use that money to hire new people.
The single most important issue in the state is growing the economy. Growing the economy in turn will result in job growth, which is the other side of the same coin. And while I agree with everyone else up here that we need a competitive tax code to make us more competitive with places like New Hampshire, the thing a lot of people are overlooking are regulations. Regulatory reform is very important to me. My company's growing. We're trying to put a simple 50-foot addition on an existing building in Georgetown. It's going to take me over a year just to get a building permit. Dozens and dozens of people are waiting to go to work. I've got electricians, plumbers, sheetrock guys. I got 2 solar panel guys, companies that want to put solar panels on a building. It'll take me a year just to get the paperwork done. Compared to New Hampshire, that's unacceptable. Having regulatory reform will help the little guy. It doesn't really hurt big companies like mine. We'll eventually get our permits. We've been in business 50 years. Who it hurts is the guy that wants to start a new company. They're not prepared. They don't have the funds to go out and start a new company. That hurts the economy, and it hurts workers because it gives workers.
Thank you. One of the areas that we do in Massachusetts that is helpful, but we need to do more of that, and that is tax breaks for those who own small businesses that reinvest in their business, whether that be in terms of hiring more individuals to work in that business, or whether that be reinvesting in capital for that business. If we increase the rewards for those 2 things, that will allow these businesses to grow substantially. And I think that's one of the most important things that we can do at this time. We also need to invest in our public university and colleges in our Commonwealth, because those are the people that go to school here. They end up working here and they stay here. And our economy is an intellectual economy, and we need to ensure that we have the workers to compete in that economy.
The next question, and we'll start with Mr. Kelcourse. Is healthcare a universal right? Why or why not?
Thank you for that question. I think it's important. Healthcare should be accessible to everybody, and I've always believed that all along. There's no reason why something as necessary as healthcare should be unattainable. And I have experience in this. Coming from a small business family, coming from being a small business owner myself, I know the costs of healthcare, and sometimes it's unattainable for people to be able to access and to pay for. 6 years ago, I was paying $401, or more than that, $401 a month for a single plan. It just shouldn't have cost that much money. So there needs to be some reform. There's good things about the Obama bill, the Affordable Health Care Act. There's bad things about it. And you know what? It's something that we need to really look at, but be able to provide health care to everybody here in the United States. And I think it should be accessible, and it should be something that everybody has a chance to obtain. So we can set the price on certain products that are manufactured here in the States, but we need to set the price.
Thank you.
Healthcare is a right. This question was asked at a debate, one of the first debates I was asked, and my Republican opponent said it was a privilege. I couldn't disagree anymore. It's a right, and we need to figure out how best to pay for it. And the state has taken a step in the right direction with the new health care reform package. They're looking at the cost of health care, and they're trying to figure out how to regulate it. But I don't think they went far enough, and I don't think they attacked all the right areas. I think that one thing they need to address is tort reform. There is a pilot program that's going on in the western part of the state that they're actually trying out to try to regulate medical malpractice, put limits on the settlements. The other thing we need to do is open our markets. We have to try to get more people in here selling insurance. Currently, we only have 3 providers. We need more. You open the markets. These 2 things will automatically lower the cost of health care, and that'll put us in the right direction toward health care reform for affordable health care for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you very much for asking that question, and my opponent is somewhat correct, and unfortunately, fortunately, I want to set the record straight. Sometimes during these debates, you take a question out of context. But let me just say this: it is my opinion, it's a privilege to live in a wonderful country like the United States of America, as well as a wonderful Commonwealth. We have great physicians, hospitals, nurses across this Commonwealth and the country, and I believe that every individual should have access to affordable health care. It's that simple. So I appreciate the question. I wanted to clarify it tonight, and I appreciate doing so. And as a state senator, the next state senator, I will do everything I can to make sure it's affordable for individuals as well as businesses, to make sure that businesses can compete in the Commonwealth. Thank you so much for the question.
Excuse me, Mr. Mira should go first, please.
I'm not an attorney. I don't know if healthcare is a right. I'm guessing that like food, clothing, housing, it's something that everyone should have access to. And I just wish that like food, clothing, and housing, we could make it affordable enough for everyone to just get it on their own and not have to rely on their employer to get it. I'd like to look around the world to see what systems work well. Systems that are heavily centralized, that have socialized systems like England, Italy, Greece, and Spain, those countries are going broke. They're not working very well. But we need to look at a place like, say, Germany, which has a decentralized system. People there are required to buy health insurance, and in turn, the insurance companies are forced to compete against each other, as are the healthcare providers like hospitals and doctors. That competition drives down costs and raises quality, just like we have for food, clothing, housing, everything from cars to cell phones. We need an element of competition to make healthcare better and to make it more affordable.
The issue of right versus privilege, as Lenny points out, it's actually a constitutional law issue, and it's not worth getting into. I personally find it to be a right in the constitutional protection for life. But I will say this: there's really not a debate going on in Massachusetts. We don't need to go to Germany. We have Romney Care here in Massachusetts. We solved that issue. The House just passed, the legislature and the governor signed health cost care containment. So we're over that hump too. Right now, I think what we need to focus on is something that will matter here at home in the 2nd Essex District. We need to increase the support for our regional hospitals here in Haverhill and in Newburyport, for example. Most people get their health care in the first instance here in the district. And second of all, we need to increase our support for senior centers and councils on aging. Many, many seniors get basic health care information and support through those important parts of our community. So we need to stay local here and focus on how we can make health care affordable and available for everybody here in our district.
We can debate whether it's a right, whether it's a human need, a necessity. We all need health care, and I think we all agree with that. What we tried to do in the legislature, and I think what we have done fairly effectively, is push basic health care at the community level. In other words, provide economic incentives so that we can get routine care where we need it in our community. When we need specialized care, then we can get that specialized care in Boston. By doing that simple change, we will greatly reduce the costs. That along, of course, with tort reform and competition. So we need to let this work. We need to see how far it goes in reducing costs, but it's certainly a huge step in the right direction, and hospitals here are now partnering with specialty hospitals in Boston so that you can get the specialty care you need here in the community.
Thank you. I do think that it is, in fact, a universal right. And when we are in need of health care individually, I think that we all tend to agree with that. But what we all experience is the big chunk out of our budget that always happens when it's time to pay for those healthcare costs. And unfortunately, it's often tethered to our employment situation. I think that the cost containment bill was a good first start, but we can do better when it comes to reining in administrative costs. And I also agree with Mr. Fogel that our community hospitals are the core of not only job creation and employment in our district, but the next state senator has an urgent responsibility to make sure that they support those community hospitals, not only so that they continue to be economic drivers, but also that they provide amazing services, local services to our people in the district. And lastly, I think that there's more work to be done regarding small business and being of assistance with chambers of commerce locally so that they can increase their purchasing power in a group setting. Thank you.
Thank you all. Next question, and we will be starting this with Mr. Magliochetti. I think, is that how I pronounce it? That's correct. All right, thank you. Do you support a rollback in the state sales tax to 5%? If you do, what specific cuts in state spending would you support to make up the loss in revenue?
Thank you. I don't know if any specific cuts are necessary. My whole platform is to grow the economy. And I think that rolling back the state sales tax is only one piece of the economic growth. And I think a lot of the revenue that would be lost by that 1.2%, 2.5%, could be made up by growth within the economy. So I think it's something that I would do in phases. First of all, I would push for the graduated sales tax that I want to try to bring back retail back here in the border communities. I don't think it should just be rolled back to 5%. That doesn't help us here in the 1st Essex District. That does nothing for us over here. We still have 0% New Hampshire. So we have to do something to blur that borderline. And the only way to do that is with the graduated sales tax. So you go 2%, 4%, and 5%. Those numbers, I've been trying to get specific numbers from Representative Dempsey on that. He's unable to calculate it in that fashion so far. But like I said, when you do the kind of economic reform that I'm planning with the growth in manufacturing and the growth in services, that's how you make up the revenue shortfall. Thank you.
Thank you. I talk to small businesses all the time, and as I said again in the opening, I certainly support rolling it back to 5%. We need to do this, being a border community, and all the businesses that I speak to say it's a great direction we need to focus on. I'll do that. As far as specific cuts, I'm not looking at cuts at the moment because the lack of fiscal discipline that's in the legislature today, we've seen it. We've seen the abuse of EBT reform. There's $400 million a year that's allocated to the Department of Transitional Assistance. We need to do my plan has to do with a top-down to bottom review of government. Look at all the inefficiencies that are there before I look at any cuts, and there is a lot of fat that we need to cut. So we need to tighten our belts up and get serious about our spending problem that's in the legislature. Thank you.
I did it wrong the first time.
That's no problem. So when it comes to rolling back the sales tax, I think it's important to fully appreciate what that money is applied toward. 1 cent of the sales tax goes toward funding our public transportation system. Another penny from that tax goes for funding the Massachusetts School Building Authority, and I know that everyone can appreciate the tangible good that comes of not having to foot the bill for our backlogged schools that need to be improved. I often hear in this campaign that many of my opponents have taken no tax pledges, or they said we need to roll back or have it graduated, but aren't specific in terms of the cuts that come to follow. And in every instance where we roll back the existing sales tax, we're going to feel it immediately on the back end when it comes to higher property taxes and reduced local aid. So I think that we need to talk about the specifics, and I can certainly speak for myself when I say that my intent is not to increase anyone's taxes when it comes to wanting tax reform in our state. My focus is on reducing the burden for working families in our district. Thank you.
I support rolling back the sales tax, and I was never for increasing the sales tax, and I'll tell you why. Because we need a competitive edge, as much of a competitive edge here in Massachusetts against New Hampshire. We have Plastow, Salem, and Seabrook just across the border. And why should any shopper stay here and shop at the Home Depot here when they can just drive 2-3 miles across the border and get the same product for a lesser price and not have to pay 6.25%? I think what we need to do is we need to really take a good, hard look, close look at areas in the budget in which we can cut. I think there has to be necessary services. We have to take care of our sick, we have to take care of our elderly, and those who cannot take care of themselves. But the truth is really we need to take a good, hard look at pensions, we have to take a look at pay, we have to take a look at things like prevailing wage. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with unions or there's anything wrong with paying a little extra, but when we're saying for the Whittier Bridge, for instance, over 95, that we could possibly pay 30, 40% higher for that project, that's unreasonable.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I also support reducing the sales tax. I'm attracted by Paul's idea of having a graduated tax. My concern is that representatives in other parts of the state will just sink that because, you know, even Western Mass or the parts of the state that border Rhode Island and Connecticut don't face it. So I'm not sure how far it would get through the legislature, but certainly dropping the sales tax because it's a regressive tax. It hurts people of lower and moderate income much more than others. I think we should replace it with an online sales tax. I don't think it's fair for our brick and mortar stores here in the district to be having to charge taxes to people and then something ordered online doesn't have to pay the same tax. That doesn't create jobs here in the district. I will also say there's a detailed report that the legislature, a commission was created to study tax expenditures, which is a fancy way of saying tax breaks that go all the way up to large industries, including the film industry that was mentioned. There are a lot of old tax breaks for businesses in Massachusetts that no longer support struggling industries. We should get rid of those.
Yes, we should absolutely roll the sales tax down to 5%. It'll make us more competitive as a state. And since day one of my campaign, I've had a platform that includes 4 basic areas of reform: welfare reform, immigration reform, pension reform, ethics reform. The reason I picked those is not only because I think Beacon Hill's doing a terrible job at those things, but also because fixing those things will free up a lot of money. Take, for instance, immigration reform. I'm not one of these round them up and ship them back home kind of guys. Far from it. My own parents are immigrants. But what I'm in favor of is requiring proof of citizenship to get any kind of welfare benefits. We don't even know how much we're spending on welfare benefits for illegals. But I do know that if we cut our sales tax, it'll make us a lot more competitive, and I think that's money much better spent than on having a sales tax of 6.25%. It'll make us more competitive, it'll make us compete with New Hampshire, and these are simple things that Beacon Hill could do right off the bat. Will they be easy to pass? Absolutely not. But by making it known to the public, I think we can get some support for it.
The Commonwealth of Massachusetts it currently has a very low unemployment rate relative to the rest of the United States. And one of the reasons that has occurred is because of the policies that we've put in place to ensure that we have large reserves, which allow us to borrow at a very low rate of interest relative to public projects. That has to continue, and I think there's consensus about that in the legislature. Again, I get back to the concept of, you know, a tenth of a point here, a tenth of a point there is not going to make us more competitive with New Hampshire. But if we continue to promote policies that give tax breaks to business, that reinvest in their business, both in terms of employment and also capital improvements, those businesses will grow, and that is the best way to improve our economy and keep our businesses competitive.
Thank you to all of you. We're switching to a different topic, and we will begin with Mr. Toohey. There are studies now. Started last time. There are studies that suggest, more than suggest, that homelessness is on the rise in Massachusetts. Would you support increasing funding for temporary and permanent housing, or what other solution would you suggest?
As you mentioned, we have a serious problem in the Commonwealth, and I would support increasing funding. And it goes back to what I said before. It's prioritizing. And I used zero-based budgeting previously because it's extremely important. And matter of fact, Senate Minority Leader Bruce Tarr and then Senator Bador was in favor of zero-based budgeting. Didn't get anywhere, but as a next state senator, I'll make sure it happens. Once you start doing that, every item is on the table to justify each expense, and moreover, that allows you to take the item, look at every single item so that your priorities match your budget, because everything is driven that way. So everything's on the table, and to answer that question, I would be in favor of doing that, and the way to do that is eliminate wasteful spending and be fiscally responsible. That's how you get more money to these particular programs that are a high priority. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that we would need to make sure that we have the resources available because homelessness is on the rise and because of the downturn in the economy. We're aware that people are unemployed a lot longer than they thought they would be. We know that because of the mortgage crisis, residents are dealing in a situation where they're upside down with their mortgage payments and in the hole. We know that everyone is struggling, and we don't necessarily see that changing in the near future. So what that gives to me is a sense of urgency that we need to make sure that we reduce all wasteful programming, any type of unnecessary bureaucracy, so that we can fund the tangible needs for the people in our district, so they are in a position again to contribute to the economy and live with dignity and get out of a temporarily bad situation. So I think that's the responsibility of the next state senator, to be committed to that detailed, hard research and be committed to getting rid of the waste so that we can meet our residents' needs on this very troubling issue. Thank you.
I don't think anybody should be homeless, especially in today's day and age. But I was shocked to realize the number of homeless folks that are in Newburyport, Salisbury, and Amesbury alone. I had this discussion with a retired educator about a few weeks ago, and I was just amazed at the amount of folks in my own hometown of Amesbury that are homeless. So those who are homeless need help, and they need help through education, training. They need the support of others that have the mindset to be able to, put them to work, to be able to, get unemployment, to get employment and get, a house over their head and to provide for their children. But unfortunately, we see a lot of folks, and I see it in my industry, a lot of folks that do take advantage of the system. I think what we're creating is we're creating a reliance on government systems without providing enough education, training to get these folks from being homeless and, unemployed back to work with a roof over their head and shelter and to be able to provide for their children. So I think it's going to be through education. I think it's going to be through training. I don't think anybody should be homeless. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think we need to look at the funding for homelessness right now. I still say that the best solution to any of this are reforms that give people jobs. If you're able to work, you should be able to find a job. That will help some of the homeless. If you're not able to work, or if you just can't care for yourself and you need help, then we have to figure a way to do it. But, this whole issue of zero-based budgeting to solve a problem like this, I couldn't disagree with more. I talked to Representative Dempsey. He's the chair of the Ways and Means Committee. He knows a lot about the budgeting. He does it every year. I asked him what would it take to do a zero-based budget. He said it would take up to 2 years. You'd have to hire hundreds of people and staff to get it done. And what do you do during that 2-year period? So you're looking at adding money to the budget to pay for this, and then what do you do during that 2-year period? I don't think that's something you do in times like this. We need action now. So we need to look at nonprofits and get their help. We need to look at other areas of the budget where we can trim down and we can make things more efficient so we can focus and allocate money where it belongs in areas like homelessness and healthcare. Thank you very much.
I do think it's Mr. Mira. You answered first before, didn't you, Mr. Fogel?
No, I think it was Mr. Mira last.
Go ahead.
Am I right?
Please,
Yeah, go ahead, Barry.
go ahead.
No, I want to be fair.
Go ahead.
All those who thought he went first last time. Isn't it my?
All right, there you go.
I want to say something about public assistance. I don't think it's right to keep using words like illegals in talking about these programs, because it undercuts public support for the real people who need public assistance. I've researched the Department of Transitional Assistance statistics. The vast majority of people on food stamps and aid to families with dependent children comply and qualify for those programs. And for people to be talking about needing more funding for those programs for enforcement, we have to realize what we're talking about here. If we're talking about cutting the sales tax and cutting other taxes, we need to make sure that we still provide enough funding for the staff at the department who are going to help people transition. Most people come into that program and leave within a year or two. People don't stay on those programs for the most part for very long. And so in order to be able to move homeless people out of homelessness, we need to continue lifting the boat for everybody.
The question is homelessness, right? Yes, okay. I have to agree with Mr. Toohey. Republicans have been talking for a long time about zero-based budgeting. We don't have the numbers on Beacon Hill to get that passed, but it's something that I think could help a lot of issues, including homelessness. I don't think the people at this table know what is best for fixing that problem. Maybe it's drug and alcohol treatment, maybe it's education, maybe it's job training. But zero-based budgeting will show, number one, how much we're spending on this problem now, and number two, where it is being spent. Most importantly, it will show how effective that money is being spent. By having various departments in the Commonwealth come forward with their zero-based budgeting every year, or even every other year, it will show us where we are most effective, where the dollars are being best spent. It's something that I think is long overdue. I think it'll fix this problem and a lot of other ones.
Thank you. We need wraparound services for homeless to address that issue for all of the homeless. If you don't provide wraparound services in terms of job training and education, you're not going to be successful in combating this very, very serious problem that we have in the Commonwealth, which is also concurrent with a rise in the level of poverty and that among children, which is very, very concerning to, I think, all of us. The first thing that we need to do, though, that being said, is we need to have a top-to-bottom very serious inquiry in the legislature regarding some of the corruption that is occurring in housing authorities. We need to do that from the top to bottom, and that's got to be done immediately because there's a lot of money that's currently being wasted. And I have advocated for that and will very, very strongly push for that in the next session.
Thank you very much. With respect to our prisons, do you support 3 strikes and you're out for long-term prison sentences, or just for, well, 3 strikes and you're out? That would be a repeat offender. So, what is your opinion about this issue? We'll start with Ms. O'Connor-Ives.
At this point, 3 strikes and you're out is decided law. But I do think that in the next Senate session, there's more work to be done because there's more possibility for bringing down the cost for taxpayers when it comes to those people that are in the prison system and they're there because of dependency issues or mental health issues. I think that there's still more work to be done in that arena. And I also think that sometimes when you're dealing with an issue, at the end of the day, no one's happy with the outcome, but some progress was made. I hope that in the next session, we can work with the experts in the field, the district attorney's offices who aren't quite content with the way that this was completed, and continue to improve on a very complicated issue. So it's decided law, but I think there's still more work to be done.
Well, as my attorney friends know, the law is always subject to change. And I'm not a big proponent of 3 strikes and you're out because I think that we need to leave that up to, there's a reason why we have 3 branches of government, the judiciary, the legislative, and the executive, is because, you know what, I mean, it's always not to be determined by one branch of government. It's what's in the best interest of the entire group of people, of the entire democracy here that we have, this republic. I mean, and our laws, our republic is based on a foundation of laws that's been created by 3 branches of government. And I think it's important that we have the discretion of our judge, our judiciary, to execute, to determine what is in the best interest of sentencing that individual, what is in the best interest of the citizens of the Commonwealth. Unfortunately, we have situations in which rear their ugly heads and become big televised media events that oh, so-and-so got out because this judge didn't exercise the discretion that he should have. And those are instances we need to curb right away and get that judge off the bench if they're not doing the proper job. Thank you.
Thank you. I agree with 3 strikes, but I don't agree with the law that was passed. I agree with 3 strikes for violent offenders where there is bodily injury in all 3 events. I think that those people are dangerous to society and they need to be removed from society for whatever length of period the law requires. However, I would immediately repeal the law that was passed on a couple of grounds. First of all, I think it had over 38 different offenses, and a lot of them didn't have to do with bodily injury. So I would repeal it because what that's going to do is that's going to create a huge burden on the prison system, and there was no mechanism put in place for how they're going to fund this. And that would be the second reason, is we need to make sure that we understand how we're going to fund this once it gets implemented. And those are the 2 reasons that I would repeal the existing law, but I would put something back where violent offenders that create bodily harm on someone else are put away for the maximum length of time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. This to me is very straightforward and is simple for me. I don't want to oversimplify it, but 3 strikes and you're out. I support that. My opponent talks about burden, talks about money. I will tell you tonight, I will not trade justice for money. I have 2 children that I adore very much. We all have children, as we know. But these are the worst criminals that we can possibly imagine. They've made a career being a criminal. The bottom line is 3 strikes, you're out. I can't say it enough. I support it, and I do not support judicial discretion because we will just get more of the same. I commend the legislature for passing what they passed, and unfortunately the governor tried to veto that, and I commend and again support the legislature for creating or supporting a law that needs to stay on the books. 3 strikes, you're out. Thank you.
I have to agree. I'm in favor of 3 strikes. There's a reason why we passed it in Massachusetts. I think what was happening for a while is that violent offenders were just getting out of jail long before they should, and we had violent criminals on the streets. It was happening a lot, not just in Massachusetts, but in other states across the country. So I'm in favor of it. We've got to have a way of getting violent criminals off the streets and keeping them off the streets. Now, someone mentioned we can simply do something with judges that are not strict enough and don't perform their duties, but it's a very hard thing to do. It's very difficult to get a judge removed from the bench. I guess there's an impeachment process, but it almost never happens. This is why the legislature had to step in, and this is why state reps and state senators had to make very hard decisions on things like this. It's dealing with people's lives, but it's very important, and state reps and state senators, they work for us. They're supposed to protect us, we the citizens. And 3 strikes, I think, is effective. I think it has kept offenders off the streets, and I think it has to be upheld.
I also support the 3 strikes law. I want to make sure everybody understands that the way it works is if each of the first 2 offenses by somebody had a possible penalty of 3 years or more, and they were sentenced to that 3 years or more, then if they're sentenced in a 3rd felony for more than 3 years, they must serve the full term that 3rd offense brings with it. So it's not that 3 strikes and you're never out of jail, but I think that's what's important to understand is these are people who are bad criminals, and they certainly need to do their time. We need them off the street. At the same time, the legislature reduced the number of people who are incarcerated for nonviolent crimes, which saves us money. That's important. We don't want to make a career criminal out of somebody who isn't one already, so that was logical as well. I will say I've sat down with John Blodgett, our DA in Essex County, and I learned a lot from him about what he thinks is important. Prosecutors are sorely underpaid. As soon as he has a prosecutor who is fully capable of knowing what they're doing, they leave for more money.
I voted for 3 strikes, you're out because I thought that it addressed our most violent criminals, and I thought it was necessary. That being said, every district attorney in the Commonwealth and every sheriff in the Commonwealth will tell you that we have a crisis in our prisons. We are not prepared in the Commonwealth at this time to have a discussion about building more prisons because we know that that's not the answer. And it's agreed upon that we need to take steps, having passed 3 strikes, you're out, that addresses mental illness and substance abuse and treatments for both of those programs. If we can do that, we will take a long step towards making our streets safer and just our quality of life greatly improved, and we owe it to those that are suffering. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Kelcourse, this next question is one you'll start with. Do you support having state police refer undocumented workers and residents to the U.S. Immigration and Customs authorities when stopped?
I do. I think it's important. I mean, my mother came to this country, and she started a new life, as I said in my opening statement. And I think America is the land of opportunity, but I also think that this land is a land that's governed by laws. We're a republic governed by a democracy, and it's very important that we follow all the laws, just not some of the laws, or the ones that may or may not be politically correct at times. I think that everyone should have the opportunity to come here to the United States to start a better life for themselves, to start a better life for their families. There's at least 3 of us up here with parents who have come from overseas and started that life, as I stated earlier. But again, it's got to be done properly. It's got to be done right. There are instances, we just talked about 3 strikes and you're out, of violent criminals that come over here who are undocumented, who commit a crime, who commit such a heinous act, and they never should have been here in the first place. Maybe it's ugly to call them illegal, but you know what? I mean, there are illegal and legal things that we can, that we're supposed to do and not do. So, that's one of them.
Thank you. Yes, I do support that. I think we have to protect our borders. We have to make sure that people coming in here are here for the right reasons, to do the right thing. My family, I'm first-generation American. They all came here to get a job, to work, to make a better living for themselves and for their children. My parents actually brought their brothers and sisters over here as well, but everything was done properly. All the proper paperwork was filed. They were sponsored, and they always took care of themselves. They were always independent. They never were on government assistance. I think that when the customs issues come up, of course the state police should be involved. They're our highest authority here in the state, and they have an obligation to protect our borders, just like the federal government has the responsibility to protect our borders around our nation. Thank you.
Thank you. As I said before, I'm very proud to have the endorsement of the State Police Association Union as well as IBPO. They understand my commitment to law enforcement. And as far as being stopped and held, I mean, part of the Secure Communities Act, it's to my understanding, to answer your question, I do support it, is that depending on where they're stopped and where the data and the fingerprints are run immediately, depending on the technology, that's why we need to do a better job with technology, is actually communicated with ICE so that if there's someone that is pulled over and held and there's an issue, they immediately stop. So I certainly do support that, and I look forward to providing any resources and all resources as I go forward in the legislature to provide much-needed technology to stop these individuals that are here unnecessarily. Thank you.
Carol? Oh, right. Oh, God. So will I.
Thank you. I don't think that this strategy is a good idea, and I want to tell you specifically why. So the question asked was, should a state trooper stop a person who may not have committed a crime but happens to have immigration status issues? we need to separate crime from immigration status issues. The federal government is charged with immigration policy. And if you talk to a lot of police officers, they don't want to be in charge of the federal government's mission to regulate immigration policy. Their job is public safety, and we need to be specific. If a state trooper stops a criminal, whether they are legal or illegal, they should have to follow the law, and they're in charge of that responsibility. But it's actually going to increase crime if we cause people who have questionable legal status to be in a position to be scared to talk to their local police officer or their state trooper, to report a crime, to report domestic abuse, to report drug, any type of crime, because then they're going to see that as an immigration officer and not crime prevention. Thank you.
I support our participation in the Safe Communities Act. I want my law enforcement agencies talking to each other. We learned that lesson on 9/11. So if a state police officer stops an individual for an infraction, which is my understanding of what has to be the first level of it, and then that officer has reason to believe that the person is undocumented, he or she passes that information on to the Homeland Security, and then within 48 hours, they let the state police know whether they want that person detained or not. I think that's important. I also think that it's time for us to take some steps like others of all parties talk about in terms of making sure that undocumented people don't get driver's licenses if they're not entitled. But I want to make this point again. The vast majority of people who are here, who are immigrants, qualify and comply for those rights. And we shouldn't scapegoat everybody who's an immigrant. We need to make sure that if someone's undocumented and they're not entitled to participate in our programs, that they can't.
I would answer yes to this question. I think our state police ought to be able to refer illegals to proper federal authorities. If a state trooper pulls a person over who's guilty for other federal crimes, if pulls over someone who is running guns or distributing drugs, you can bet that state trooper is going to refer him to federal authorities. Likewise, if you're traveling in a foreign country and local police officers pull you over, if you're guilty of a federal crime, you can bet they're going to refer you as well. It's very important. Our police and our federal authorities need to work together. It's vitally important. If you want to see what goes on with places that don't control immigration, I mean, we need to look only to places like California. They have cities and indeed entire counties filing for bankruptcy, in no small part because of criminal activity like this. It's something I don't want to see happen here in Massachusetts. And this is not anti-immigrant. My own parents are immigrants, like I said. I welcome them with open arms. Come in here, follow the rules, pay your taxes, get a job if that's what you want, and welcome with open arms.
Thank you. I voted for the Secure Communities Act, and I also co-sponsored legislation that requires that when an individual applies for a license, that they be required to show proof of residency and proof of citizenship. And I co-sponsored that primarily as a matter of safety, to ensure that those individuals that are applying for a license are able to understand the rules of the road and are able to drive in a safe manner. And I think that we've had circumstances where that has not been the case, and we've had tragic accidents. So I look at this as a public safety issue. I think I agree with everyone that we need a clearer, more direct path to citizenship. But to me, I view this as a matter of public safety.
Thank you. Our next question, Mr. Magliocchetti, you will be starting. Someone mentioned that you all have children. I don't know you personally, so I'll try to phrase this question properly. Do you or would you send your children to public schools? Why or why not?
Yes, I would. I have a son that's in the 2nd grade in Golden Hill, daughter at Haverhill High School. I'm very proud of our public school system here in Haverhill. That's why I ran for the school committee. I'm currently the vice president, and I think we're moving in a very positive direction. We have a high school that is second to none. I believe it's one of the finest in the state. And I believe in public education, because I think public education brings a lot to the person. I think that it helps develop the whole person because of the diversity of the people in the schools. And I encourage my children to participate in programs at the schools, to be part of Little League, soccer, hockey, all the other local sports and activities. There's more to education than just the books. And it makes you, and it brings the whole family as part of the community when you're part of a public school environment. We have a long way to go in our public schools. We have to make sure we keep up with the standards. A community like Haverhill, as diverse as it is, has a lot of issues, but we are overcoming them. And I believe that my children and other students in the schools will be better off for it. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't think I need a minute to answer this question. As I mentioned earlier, I serve on this is my 9th year. I'm 3 terms on the Haverhill School Committee, and I've actually served as vice president and president. Very proud of that record of accomplishment. More important than that, I'm very proud of my 2 wonderful children that do extremely well in the Haverhill Public Schools. We have fantastic teachers throughout our district. We certainly have work to be done. There's no question about that. Every urban setting, every urban district has their challenges, but we face them. I certainly commend my opponent for his work as well, but we worked very, very well collectively, cohesively with the superintendent to get the job done. We're moving in the right direction here in Haverhill, and I can't say enough about public education. I support it a great deal, and my kids are a living testament of that. Thank you so much. Oh, sorry.
I don't actually have kids at the moment, but it doesn't change how I feel about the importance of public education. I'm the product of a public education, and I'm very proud. I feel like I was equipped to go to a college, and then I'm the first person in my family to go to law school. But I will tell you that when I went to Burlington High School, we had Latin, we had a sports program where the students didn't have to pay athletic fees. Children were able to utilize the bus system without additional fees, and that's not the case anymore. So I think that there's plenty of work to be done so that our students can compete in a very competitive economy. I'm very proud to have the endorsement of the Mass Teachers Association and the American Federation of Teachers, and I think that I got that endorsement because I'm truly committed to the hard work that's required to maintain standards so that people don't opt out of a public education, because that's just a formula for disaster for allowing for a very high quality and accessible system for all of our students in the district. Thank you.
I would be proud to send my 2 sons, Michael, who is 3, and Thomas, who is 1, to the public school system. I'm a product of Amesbury High School. I know that some of my teachers there will probably report to you that they'd rather have seen me gone to a private school at times, but I had the pleasure of going to Amesbury High. I learned a lot there. I had a lot of great mentors, a lot of great teachers. One of the issues Ms. Ives just discussed, back when I was in high school too, we didn't have busing fees, we didn't have user fees, and it was nice. We did have user fees. Actually, user fees were implemented when I was a junior at Amesbury High School. And I can tell you right now, it's more and more difficult, I think, for kids to get involved in sports. And without sports, I wouldn't have been, the opportunities for me just wouldn't have opened up. I think we need a good balance between athletics and academics. And I think we need to do that by looking at ways in which to revise, restore local aid, lower our property taxes, and give folks the ability to be able to get their kids involved in many sports and athletic and extracurricular activities as they possibly can to round their educational experience fully. Thank you.
The answer is yes. I would send my kids to a public school, and in fact, I did. I'm a product of the Woburn Public School system myself. My 2 sons, Anthony and Nicholas, went to the Page Elementary School and then graduated from Pentucket High School. I think it's a great system, and I'm obviously not alone. It's one of the reasons why our property values are as high as they are. It's because people want to live in this district, just like I did. It's one of the reasons why I chose to live here. It's because it's an excellent school system. It has given me the opportunity to meet many of the teachers in the Pentucket system, and every single one of them that I met is a hardworking individual. They care about their students, and I would have my kids go there again in a heartbeat. It's something that works. It's something I believe in. I donate a lot of time and effort to the schools, probably donate more to the schools than any other organization, because it's something that myself and my family have always agreed on, something we've always believed in. So Would I send them to that school again? Absolutely, I would do so in a heartbeat.
Hi. I have a 15-year-old daughter who goes to private school, but that doesn't change the fact that I am a big supporter of public schools. I have the Mass Teacher Association endorsement. My daughter was born 3 months premature and is quite a miracle, actually, and we found that large class size was not conducive for her. She went to private school after elementary school and is now doing very well in school. She's a beautiful child. But I think what that symbolizes is that everybody has to make their own choice for their own family. I think we need public schools that are available for people that where we fix the issues that are wrong with public education right now. One of them is we need to make our buildings safer and more conducive to modern education. Number two, we need to support our teachers. The legislature made significant changes in the pension plan for new teachers. The retirement age is down. The number of years that get considered in the final pension is expanded to 5 years. But I am a big supporter of public schools and bullying policies. I have visited the Pentucket School Committee and the Triton School Committee to talk to them about improving their bullying policies.
Thank you. In addition to 8 years of military service, which I had the opportunity to pursue through the University of Massachusetts Amherst and their ROTC program, I bring a deep commitment to public education because I think public education is the glue that holds our country together. It holds our communities together. And it is also, I believe, what Jefferson was pointing to when he talked about opportunity and equality for all. And I think that our public schools are where that all starts, and it provides an opportunity for folks throughout our country. I do think that we need to expand the opportunities in our schools for after-school programs. I believe that we pay so much for these schools as a community that these schools should be used throughout the day and throughout the evening. They belong to everyone in the community. And there is a tremendous need in families to expand these opportunities after school. Doesn't have to be paid for by the government. It can be an opportunity for private sector to step in and offer programs that utilize these wonderful institutions and buildings after school. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We have time for another question. Yeah. There are many of us, probably in this room as well, who think the environment has really gotten short shrift through most of the debates. And there are citizens in the room who've suggested that there are problems with the Merrimack River and other water sources that are in the communities that you will be seeking to serve. Do you agree or disagree that there are issues with the Merrimack River and other water sources in your district? If you do, what would you propose to help with cleanup, with making them healthier? You decide. Mr. Toohey, would you like to begin?
Thank you. Well, I do think there are certainly issues that we need to address, similar to the dredging issue that's going up in the Salisbury, Plum Island area. I would work with Senator Tara and the like with the Merrimack River Beach Alliance, which is consisting of federal, state, and local individuals, and work very, very hard with that group, to not just to name one, to make sure that our rivers and streams and our oceans are clean and acceptable. We have wonderful oceans and rivers throughout the Merrimack Valley. It's a beautiful location, and I've grown up at the beach in the summers, and I'm going to do everything I can to provide the proper resources to make sure that we have clean rivers and oceans that are now beautiful, but that can be improved upon. Thank you.
We finally figured it out.
Thank you. The Merrimack Valley has this treasure, which is the river, and it's the cleanest it's ever been in a very long time, but we know that we can do better. And a big part of that solution is upgrading our wastewater treatment facilities all along the river. Newburyport had the benefit of doing that, and we also need to make sure that the non-point source pollution from the grates and the water that runs down our streets also is addressed. And by background, I'm an environmental attorney, but here's where I want to make the case where I'm the only candidate running for state senate who is in a position to actually chair a committee. And Senator Bador, who chaired transportation, was able to deliver a lot of resources to our district. And I'm the only person in this race for state senate who can actually caucus with the majority party and pass legislation. I cannot emphasize enough how critical that is to making a difference on an issue such as improving the water quality of the Merrimack River. Thank you.
I think it's only critical if it isn't the Democratic majority that hasn't done so much damage in this state for the long time. So, to be honest with you, I think it's time for a strong independent in this state. With respect to the Merrimack River, I grew up on the Merrimack River, and I can tell you from experience, I remember when the pogies were floating up and down dead in this river, and it was really in a sickly state. The river has been the cleanest it's ever been in generations. I hear stories of other folks that grew up and down the river that can talk about the blue and red dyes coming out of the different mills and hat factories and so on and so forth, the manufacturing facilities up and down the river. When I was a kid, my dad and mom used to shoo me out of the river when I was out there wading along the shore banks, because every single time I'd come out, I had an earache. Now people are swimming in the river. They're enjoying the river. They're jumping off High Rock down in Salisbury behind Monadnock Road. I think it's an important resource that we really need to pay attention to, but I think we're doing a terrific job in maintaining it and keeping it clean.
Thank you. The Merrimack River is key to the whole economic development of all the towns that abut it. I know here in Haverhill we have approval for a dock system downtown, so we're going to be looking for it as a big attraction to bring people to our downtown. And you just look at what's going on in Newburyport and Amesbury, all these other communities in this district that feed off the river. So of course it's a priority. We want people using the river for all kinds of activities. There is a problem in there, although I think that over the years, nature has done a lot of the cleanup for us, and I think we have to let nature continue to do the cleanup. I mean, when you talk to people who used to work at the paperboard or at all the dye factories, or like you said, the hat factories, you hear horror stories of things that used to be dumped in the river. But it's been a long time now. We have the Clean Rivers Act. Things are going in the right direction. And just a comment about Ms. Ives' comment that she could chair. She's trying to put herself out as an independent, yet she's saying she can go in and chair in the party. If you're an independent within the party, I don't know if the rest of the party is going to support you for a chair. Thank you.
The clean environment is a nonpartisan issue, although I'll take issue with Mr. Kelcourse. When Governor Dukakis was being criticized by George Bush for the Boston Harbor, what the governor didn't do was say that he had taken the federal funds and the state money for clean water programs and had put the money into wastewater treatment throughout the state. Our rivers and streams in Massachusetts went from basically you couldn't fish or swim in any of them to more than 80% of the rivers and streams being fishable and swimmable. The things that these folks just talked about in terms of the improvement and the change didn't just happen. It happened because a Democratic governor and a Democratic legislature put a lot of money into environmental protection and improvement. And I would continue to do that. I would create funding for the wastewater treatment facilities, but also for CSOs. Haverhill and Lawrence need more support for combined sewer overflow improvement, and if we can continue to do that, we will continue to see improved water quality. But this is a nonpartisan issue we all can support.
I have to agree. It is a nonpartisan issue. It's something we should all be concerned about. The Merrimack is a treasure, and clean air and water is something we should all, of course, aspire to. It's something we should all be concerned with. Like Sean, I met with Bruce Tarr. I went with him to some meetings to the Plum Island Foundation. He brought us up to date, up to speed on what's going on there and how we're going to fix our issues at the end of the river. But of course, we need to be concerned about what's going on upriver. When I lived in Groveland, I worked on the Conservation Commission. It was something I was happy I did, and I learned quite a bit. And I did it because it's something I believe in. Government has to be there to protect the environment. We cannot rely on private businesses to do that themselves. They'll never be able to police themselves. We need government to be there to make sure that those laws are being enforced. It's something I believe in, and it's something we all need to be concerned about.
What's more important than clean drinking water? I'm here because, in public service, because I started off opposing a gas-fired power plant along the Merrimack River, and then became publicly involved in other issues after that. We succeeded in preventing that plant from locating along the Merrimack River, draining approximately enough water every day to service the city. That being said, I spend quite a bit of time, it's a passion of mine, with Congresswoman Zongas on this particular issue. The Lowell treatment facility needs to be upgraded immediately because of overflow during severe rain. And the other issue that we need to study carefully, and I'm working with Congresswoman Zongas on this, is what happens north of the Massachusetts border. We've already seen some issues with that in terms of the discs that we had floating down the river not too long ago. So that we need to ensure the quality of our drinking water, and we need to begin to work with New Hampshire immediately.
Unfortunately, we have run out of time for more questions. I do want you to know that all but one question came from the audience, and all of us in the room appreciate the thoughtfulness of the questions asked, and we certainly appreciate the thoughtfulness of the responses we've heard. We're going to move into final statements now. Corinne, we are really not pleased that you were not able to participate throughout, and because it is a league policy when you are opposed. So what we will do is give you up to like 4 minutes to do your closing statement. Everyone else has 1 minute. Is that okay with you? Okay, and again, I really apologize for all of Corinne's supporters. It is just that I think you can understand the reason that the league has this policy, and we did think that there would be another candidate, her opposing candidate here. So let's see, what order should we go in for closing statements? Corinne, would you like to start?
Thank you. My name is Corinne.
Oh, excuse me,
That's
sorry.
okay. That's okay. I've lived my whole life with that, so I thank my mother and my father for it. I do appreciate that all of you were patient with this. It was tough at first, but I do want to point out that I was sitting here writing some notes and making sure that I could at least communicate to everybody my positions on some of the questions that were asked while during this forum. You were all done a disservice tonight because my opponent did not have the courtesy to show up. And I'm very sorry for that. I respect your time, and I'm here as a professional because I want to earn your vote and earn your respect. I promise to show up for you every day on Beacon Hill. I have a record of experience as a proven leader that shows that. An empty chair can't vote, and I am clearly not an empty chair. Tonight, I have proven to you all that I take this job very seriously, even before I will ever serve. If you call me for anything, I will go to the wall for you. Your voice deserves to be heard, and I will communicate that clearly and represent you wholly. We talked a little bit about the transient population, and there were a lot of good answers tonight. One of the sections of the transient population, or the homeless population, is children, and those children end up having to jump from school district to school district to school district, and they get no continuity. That is something that needs to be addressed by this state legislature upcoming, and that is something that I promise to address. And I will keep addressing it until it gets resolved. Let's see, we also talked a little bit about Melissa's bill. I worked hard on that as a citizen. I went to Beacon Hill. I attended open hearings. I worked with some of the senators. I worked with some of the state representatives to make sure it got done. Let's not forget the tragedy of Matthew Denise of Milford, who was killed by a drunk driver who was not in the country legally. He had already been convicted of other crimes that should have resulted in his deportation. Had secure communities been in place, his child might still have a father. I also have kids in public school. That was one of the questions. I have a first grader, a second grader, and a fourth grader. So I stay busy, and I enjoy being busy. They keep me that way, and they keep me challenged. They all go to the public school at Thompson School. It's one of the reasons why I got involved in the school committees, because I cared about their education, and I wanted to make it better. I saw an opportunity, and I jumped in, because I believe that it's the normal working folks like you and I. My husband's an automotive technician. We are the people that should be the voice on Beacon Hill. Not all the lawyers, not that there's anything wrong with lawyers, but there are an awful lot of lawyers on Beacon Hill and not a lot of moms and not a lot of women. There are only 6 Republican women in the entire State House out of 160 legislators. Ms. Campbell is also in a minority up on Beacon Hill. We need to get more people up there that will be able to deliver common sense solutions. I want to make sure that your government is here for you when you need it and doesn't pry into your private business when it shouldn't. So I want to thank you so much for coming. I will be here to answer any questions. If you have additional questions, I will not leave until the last person leaves. Thank you.
I want to thank, again, the League of Women Voters. I'm not sure if they're setting a precedent here by allowing someone that doesn't have an opponent to come, but I really wanted to take this opportunity to meet more people in the city of Haverhill, and I thank you for your indulgence. And I want to thank my colleagues for running for public office. These are not easy times to run for public office, and I thank each and every one of you. You're bringing tremendous energy and commitment to public service, and I commend you for that. Being a state representative is a full-time job for me. It's my passion, and I am deeply committed to working with all of these individuals in the future and my colleagues in the House of Representatives. I am going to continue to be a voice for the Merrimack Valley, and I will continue to take my military service, my public service, my experience at the local level on city council in the city of Methuen, and work with my colleagues to promote the interests of the Merrimack Valley and to promote common sense to move Massachusetts forward and continue in the mode of reform. Thank you very much.
I'd also like to thank everyone for coming out here tonight. We fill this room, and it just shows that there's a lot of people in this district, in this town, that really do care. When we go to the polls in November, we're going to be picking the direction of our state and our Commonwealth. It's a very important election. As you've heard tonight, you know I'm in favor of change. I'm a reform candidate. I think we need to get our taxing, our spending, and our borrowing under control. We have seen what happens in the states that don't do this. We need to look only at Rhode Island and California to see what happens under one-party rule when state legislators are allowed to recklessly borrow and spend. No matter how often they raise their taxes, they're never able to keep up with their ever-expanding governments. I don't want to see that happen here. I don't want to see our towns filing for bankruptcy like they're doing there. We don't have to let that happen. We can prevent it by electing people that recognize that we're on the wrong road and who know how to get us on the right one. I believe I am that candidate. I ask you for your vote in November to help us make that happen. Thank you.
The fact of the matter is there are only 40 lawyers in the House of Representatives. It is a mistaken factoid, which means something that isn't accurate, to suggest that there are too many lawyers on Beacon Hill. There aren't enough, frankly. And here's the fact. It's not just lawyers per se. I am a business lawyer. My 30-year career has been spent dealing with the environmental and land use regulations that make economic growth possible. One of Lenny's opponents, who he beat in the primary, called me an environmentalist lawyer. He kept adding that at the end. He's wrong about that. I support a good environment, but I also support a healthy economy. I promise to meet the highest standards of public service if I'm elected for this seat, but I'm going to bring balance and common sense. It's not just enough to identify problems in government. It's necessary to fashion a solution and to work with people to solve the problem and fix it. And so I intend to make a difference. I started my career in public service, and I intend to finish it in public service. Thank you.
I want to thank everyone for coming here tonight, and the League of Women Voters. Thank you so much for sponsoring the event this evening. I also want to thank my opponents as well for a wonderful forum this evening. And tonight we've shared some ideas about each other, and we've learned a lot about each other and that we care about our community. And we're looking to strive to provide a stronger economy, provide a solid education, lower healthcare costs to make it more affordable and accessible to everyone. Most importantly, I'm here to restore fiscal discipline as well. I believe my 9 years of experience in the private sector, combined with my 9 years of service as an elected official, will allow me to go to Beacon Hill to accomplish many of the issues that we discussed tonight. Most importantly, 40 members of the Senate, 36 are either independent or Democrats, mostly Democrats with 4 Republicans. I look forward to providing much needed balance in the legislature, and I look forward to representing all of you on November 6th. I look forward to your vote, your consideration, Tuesday, November 6th. Thank you.
Your vote for me, Paul Magliocchetti, in the 1st Essex District will be historic. I will be the first independent candidate elected to this seat. This will be sending a very strong message to everyone else on Beacon Hill. You, the voters, have a clear choice November 6th. The Democratic candidate and the Republican candidate have both said that tax reform is at the heart of their economic development plan. I'm the only candidate up here that's put out a complete, comprehensive economic development plan. I can and will consider every issue from an unbiased point of view, free from party ideology, free from lobbyist influence, and free from partisan interest. No party candidate can do that. I am free to caucus with the party in power and ensure that everyone's positions and interests are considered. To find out more about me, go to my website, paulmagliocchetti.com, or find me on Facebook at Paul Magliocchetti for State Senate. I humbly ask for your vote Tuesday, November 6th, to be your next state senator. Thank you.
I hate to repeat myself, but since my good friend Mr. Magliocchetti he's going to have to wait to make history as the second independent elected to the state legislature, because I fully intend on being the first. I'm twice elected a city councilor at large in Amesbury, ladies and gentlemen, and prior to that, I was in the planning board. I worked hard to attain my education. I worked afterwards for one of the largest employers in the finance industry here in Massachusetts, and then for a small community-based business before hanging my own shingle as an attorney. I'm not afraid to take on challenges, as I wasn't afraid to hang my license out in front of my office upon passing the bar here in Massachusetts and practicing law, with little help other than those folks who have developed very great friendships with, both Republican and Democrat, mind you, in the business community. So I'm looking forward to bringing that same hard work ethic that I've spent my whole life developing and doing to be your best next state senator. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm in this race for the right reasons. I want to be your voice in the state senate. I'm truly committed to finding solutions instead of scoring political points. I will be a state senator who goes to work every day working to reduce the tax burden for working families and seniors on fixed incomes. All of my colleagues on the City Council and School Committee have endorsed me in this race. It means a lot to earn the confidence from the people that you work with over years. I work with Democrats, Republicans, and independents in an environment of mutual respect. I want to take that approach to problem solving to Beacon Hill. I have a track record of being my own person, beholden to no one and looking at each issue on its own merits. In 21 days, you'll decide which one of us will be your voice in the state senate. With that, I humbly ask for your vote on November 6th so that we can get to work for Haverhill and the entire district. And I do believe that with my profile, I can also offer some balance and some equity and more representation for the district, a different type of balance. Thank you.
Thank you, candidates, for a very, very informative forum. And I really want to thank all of you in the audience for coming. We have participatory democracy, and it's really important, especially in this year when you have so many new people who are trying to represent you, to begin to understand where they stand and how they will effectively represent you. Again, if any of you are not registered to vote, you can do so until Wednesday, and we have forms, or if you have somebody who you know needs a form, please pick it up and make sure you get it to your city hall by Wednesday at the latest, otherwise you'll be precluded from voting. So thank you all very, very much for being here, and thank you candidates, all of you, for choosing to run.